Hi, and welcome to Day 3 of VAB's State of TV Measurement Series. I'm Ben Vandegrift, VP of Measurement Solutions at VAB. In this newly created role, I aim to be an expert resource as you utilize and learn more about modern TV measurement. I'm so glad to have you join us for today's discussion. If you missed the previous two sessions earlier this week, you can find them on our website, thevab.com. Over the last 18 months, VAB has been leading the industry in demanding accurate, transparent, and modern TV measurement solutions, and championing those who bring them to the marketplace. We do this in service of our members and for the marketers who trust us and rely upon accurate reporting to make critical investment decisions. This series is an important part of our ongoing commitment to help you navigate the complexity of the new measurement landscape. Through these conversations, we'll equip you with new perspectives and a deeper understanding of the critical issues and the opportunities within modern measurement. Our goal is to empower you with the keys to understanding measurement that will unlock brand growth. The VAB has several resources to help you in learning about modern TV measurement. We have glossaries, case studies, webinars, and more. You can find it all on thevab.com, where our content is complimentary to our members and to marketers. Finally, a reminder that all registrants will receive a link to this recording within the next couple of days. A fundamental part of modern measurement is how the data itself is collected. Data collection. It sounds simple. However, the video ecosystem has evolved, becoming more and more complex, with multiple avenues for audiences to consume premium video content. This means the way in which we collect viewership data has also needed to evolve. So, are there certain methods of viewership data collection that are better than others? How and should we compare different data collection methods? Luckily, we have two experts with us today who will help us navigate those questions as we discuss the primary ways TV viewership data is collected. I'm delighted to have Avi Brown of Samba TV and Bob Ivins of TV Squared by Innovid. Avi and Bob, thanks for joining us. Would you be so kind to introduce yourselves and briefly describe your roles and your companies?
Avi, you want to go first?
Sure. Avi Brown, SVP of Revenue Products for Samba TV. That means I'm responsible for all products that we bring to market commercially. And Samba really invented ACR technology many years ago. We were the first to do it. We've got chipset level technology in over 20 brands of smart TVs. Those TVs are purchased by consumers and in homes in over 100 countries around the world. And as a result of being a TV technology company, of course, one of the very powerful byproducts is the data. It's 100% opt-in. So the consumers, when they bring home a TV, they set up a new TV, they go through all their setup screens. There is a Samba opt-in opportunity. We see very, very high opt-in rates because we develop features not only that we bring to market commercially, but also features and products that we make available to the OEMs that make the TVs and the end consumer to make their viewing experience better. And because we do so, we see a lot of opt-in, we see a lot of data, and we take that data and we turn it into various expressions through our different products. And so the primary expressions of that data are really in activation through targeting and of course measurement, which we're talking about today.
Great, thanks, Avi. Bob.
Yeah, hey, Bob Ivins, Chief Strategy Officer from what was called TV Squared, is now just simply called Innovid. For those that don't know it, Innovid is the largest independent CTV ad server in the country. TV Squared was a TV measurement company that was using the Samba data set, so we're appreciative of the work that Avi and his technology does. When we think about TV and its evolving definition, it's not just linear TV and it's not just streaming, it's the combination. So the combination of Innovid, which has source level data for connected devices and CTV, and legacy TV Squared that combines CTV plus linear TV, we're getting a full spectrum of cross-platform measurement. My role, I'm fortunate enough to have a pretty broad remit, so I have one foot firmly planted in data, if you will. And then I'm able to look at, biz dev, corp dev, product development, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a unique role, and I'm happy to here to try to share some knowledge.
Great, thanks, Bob. Gentlemen, you guys are clearly the perfect pair for our conversation here today. So let's get into it. The importance of data collection. Could we first start perhaps by describing the importance of data collection and how it can have an impact on the measurement of a campaign? Bob, let's start with you.
What? Sorry. Yeah, no, so it's funny. TV in the last couple of years has moved from this data poor environment to a data rich environment. Activity data collected passively and at scale is now at our disposal. It reminds me of back in the day when another piece of Nielsen, which used to be called the buy side of the business, they migrated from audit-based collection methodology to track product movement in the grocery store to scanning-based methodology. This was back in the early 80s. And all of a sudden, the data got more accurate in terms of tracking product movement, but it also enabled other things, advanced analytics like, price promotion modeling, advanced real-time inventory management for grocery stores, shelf stocking things. So I think when we talk about, measurement, I think we're a little bit narrow-minded or focused. There's so much focus on the currency, but I think what's happening with this massive data set that's now unleashed in the TV environment that enables a lot of capabilities and enhancements in measurement and analytics that we haven't had. And as I said earlier, I think it's going to benefit all players. It's going to benefit the media owners because they're going to do better utilization of their inventory. It's going to benefit the advertisers, going to be more cost effective about reaching people. And it's going to benefit the consumers because they're going to see advertising that's more relevant to them. So I think we're at a really unique stage for TV because of the data.
Yeah, so there's an influx of massive amounts of data that can really be utilized for multiple different parts throughout measurement. Avi, any thoughts there? Anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, Bob makes great points, and I would just add, in addition to the sort of the relevance of an ad to the end consumer because of the more granular data, there really is sort of a bigger picture issue that we need to address, which is frequency. Frequency at the household level. When we look at our data, what we see is 95% of linear ads only reaching 55% of end consumers. So what that tells us is really what's happening is, the old school model of buying ratings points now is producing a scenario where there's an under indexing on reach and an over indexing on frequency for the linear channel. And as a result, you have sort of the inverted problem on the streaming side of the TV experience. And so, what's so important for us as an industry and what's so powerful about, a data set like ours, especially in combination with, powerful and complete digital data sets for streaming environments, is we can now identify which households the frequency is excessive, and it can be really effectively categorized as waste. And we can identify which households are being underreached by particular brands, and we can get prescriptive. And so the opportunity has become such that the marketer can now, instead of increasing their marketing budget because they see CTV as a more expensive channel, for example, they can actually reallocate existing marketing budgets. They can stretch the dollar further. They can get greater reach, greater ROI ultimately. And then, as we get more and more granular and we enrich the data set beyond reach and frequency at that currency grade with, all kinds of interesting attributes of an end consumer and their household, then we get to a world that Bob was describing where it's really relevant advertising to the individual viewer or the family in front of the TV in the household. But we really first, the big issue, right now is this frequency issue.
I would just add to that. Sorry if I could pile on there for a second. Like, none of this, we would not be here without technology like yours. We would not be here without CTV. The harmonization of the atomic value of what we're measuring and collecting, the impression, is what enables all this. And I think you're absolutely right that data like yours collected at scale combined with CTV impression level information gives us those unique capabilities of understanding the precise reach, the precise frequency, and not average frequency, it's the distribution frequency that's the most relevant point. And managing that, because and we can do it more on CTV than we can in linear TV because of the time lags. Like you can optimize weight, addressability, or targeting, and optimize the creative in the CTV environment. And it's still, you can't do that yet in linear TV. Where progress is being made, but it's still not there. So I think the key to this is data like yours and the capabilities of CTV.
Yeah, and I think it's a natural evolution. If you think about, so I think the first TV ad ever aired in something like 1942.
Boulevard. It was on a baseball game at Boulevard. Yeah.
During a baseball game.
That was the one.
It was $9.
And then
who won the game? I don't even know.
It was a great watch company that won the game, clearly. Nielsen came to market for TV. They'd already been measuring radio, but in 1950, MRC in the 60s. So you have this sort of 20th century model, right? Because of the nature of the technology that was available and the methodology for deriving data that felt statistically meaningful at the time. And intuitively, panels still matter and make sense. But then, in call it the mid to late 90s, when the internet started to explode and ComScore was born to measure web traffic, you started to get this interesting, sort of individual browser session level measurement. And ultimately, backing that into various identifiers, obviously the cookie, but others over time, to get this very sort of granular impression level understanding and page view level understanding. And then again, comes the panel to slice that up demographically. The difference between those two eras and now is that, you have a company like Samba that was actually born for streaming. We exist solely within smart TVs, right? That's where our technology exists. We have a very creative and smart CEO who saw this coming a long time ago and went out of his way to really work directly with the manufacturers of the smart TVs, many of them. As a result, we're the only independent ACR data set in the market. Any other ACR data set that's out there is generated by a single OEM, by the brand that makes the TV. And so one of the powerful things that we're able to do is produce a very demographically representative data set because we have this spectrum of smart TVs. And not just the brands and the demographic loyalty to an individual brand, but the price point of the TV. A couple $100 ranging all the way up to several $1,000s for a top of the line Sony, for example. So I think what you have today is sort of this best of both worlds opportunity. And so, for example, the way we partner with VAB and with Innovid is directly related to, how do we bring together digital signal that is extremely granular and now TV signal that is extremely granular, instead of trying to take broad strokes on the linear side and force them into a more granular model. Now we're sort of finally at the point where we're really at that tipping point now, historically, where internet-like consumption and TV consumption are becoming one and the same. And I think it's just a matter of time until that 55% moves down below 50%. I think it's just a couple of years. I know Disney, I believe they stated they're at 60-40 right now, meaning linear to streaming, with a stated goal in 2023 of 50-50. And I think it's clear that streaming is gonna overtake linear very, very quickly.
I mean, I agree completely. And sorry, Ben, you probably want to ask a question here, but like,
no, please. This is why
it's like, I used to look to the future to see how, my kids consume premium content. But if I look at my own household, I used to do the same thing when, like, how many connected devices you have, how many streaming services I have, and how do I watch TV? Like, the last thing I did watch a soccer match from the UK over the weekend live, but everything else is streamed. Everything else is streamed. So I think, and I'm probably, a couple standard deviations in the mean age of you guys. So like, I think, it's happening already. And these media companies need to get ahead of this curve because it's here.
Real quick comment on live sports. Apple's deal with MLB. You've got Amazon Prime Video with Thursday Night Football. So even that football game that you watched, that's going to be streamable soon.
Absolutely. But I think you guys bring up important points of just the way that viewership is changing, how it's shifting towards streaming, but that also leads to how data is collected. And for a marketer thinking about, putting myself in their shoes, right? Viewership data can be collected from set-top box, return path data, to panels, to smart TVs and ACR like Samba, and big data. So what advice would you give to marketers who are evaluating these options? There's a lot of options out there. Do you have any recommendations for them, any advice for them as they're deciding who they're going to partner up with to measure the success of their campaigns and ultimately optimize and make business decisions further down the road?
I'll jump in here. I think that, for the first time that I can remember, we went into an upfront without an MRC accredited currency. So clearly we're at a jump ball situation, right? And I think the data that's being collected is telling people that they should have alternatives. They should think about the future. They shouldn't just say, let's do what we did last year times 1.1 or 0.9. So I'm glad to see that, many buyers and many sellers were saying, yeah, we're gonna test. The legacy measurement or currency is still out there, but I think having experiments, and I think you also need to recognize that one size doesn't fit all. Like, let's just take an automobile category for an example. They separate their ad spend into tier 1, which is branding dollars, tier 2, which is kind of, regional dollars, and then tier 3, which is local. The metrics and how they might view it are completely different. Brand one's metrics like recall and awareness and evoke set. Middle tier might want to be able to drive somebody to a comparison shopping site like Kelly Blue Book. And then the local person wants to drive foot traffic and a transaction. I think understanding what you want to measure and putting the taps in this, tsunami of data at the right spot, at the right time, at the right angle is the way to think about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Understanding the brand's needs and the nuances, automotive is a great example where you have, the 3 tiers that Bob just described. There's also lots of other brands out there that have sort of, myriad products within their portfolio, and they need to look at each thing sort of quite tactically. But I think measurement historically has, at the currency grade level, has been sort of an audience as a proxy, right? Now we're moving in the direction of more directly attributable driving of business outcomes. And so, of course, every brand marketer sees every dollar spent on brand marketing as the potential to grow their business or to strengthen their relationship with the end consumer. But I think we're now reaching a point where we can close the loop better and better than we ever had. But to circle back directly to your question around data collection, right, and the different types of data out there. So first, I would just make a clear point that data sets, by definition, have biases if they're capable of measuring only one specific thing, right? A purely digital data set that is measuring, streaming impressions or other digital video impressions is going to have biases intrinsically baked in. Set-top box return path data is going to have intrinsically a bias baked in, going to be heavy on, obviously skewed towards cable TV viewers. The nice thing about ACR technology, and this may be something people are not aware of, is that we're not exclusively measuring streaming sessions, right? The only bias we have is that we're only measuring households that have an internet connection. My understanding is 4 years ago, close to 90% of US households had an internet connection. So I don't think that bias is a big concern statistically. We are able to observe when a viewing session is over the air and it's local broadcast. We're able to view a session if it's through a set-top box and it's cable TV. We're able to view a streaming session, a gaming console gaming session, you name it. And so I think having sort of that screen level source of truth that's agnostic of the input source is a meaningful sort of net new opportunity for anybody, whether it's the buy side or the sell side, that's employing measurement derived from those data sets. when we take a look at our panel, and we're very sort of intellectually honest about its composition demographically, and we compare that to the demographic composition of the US Census, we feel really, really good about how close we are compared to other data sets. And I think that has a lot to do with the diversity of brands and the diversity of TV SKUs, and the fact that we're just very, very well distributed devices because of, over 20 brands is really, really helpful.
Absolutely. So there's a wide breadth there. So kind of stepping back for a moment there. So let's say I'm a marketer who bought and transacted and measured on one type of data collection and one type of measurement last year. And now I'm going into next year and I'm evaluating new measurement opportunities, new data collection methods, perhaps. And would it be fair for me to kind of measure and compare that old way with the new way, or type A versus type B? How do I kind of reconcile that if I'm a marketer, if I'm a buyer?
Yeah, but your question is a little bit odd, because even if you say I'm going to work with the legacy provider of the currency, they're changing their entire methodology this year too. Yeah. So it's not like we're going to be able to say, let's just do it the old way and compare it to the new way, because it's all going to be different. So I think to some extent we have to recognize, like everybody needs to recognize that. And I think that's going to force us to really put more energy into evaluating really what do we want to do, and then what's the right metrics to measure that with, and then who's the right partner to work with. And I think Avi, he did a great job of talking about selection bias and samples. And, we look at their data set because of its distribution across manufacturers, and we feel that they have coverage. I don't think there's really an enumeration. Maybe we can use the US Census to do that, but, every DMA, every zip code, every demographic, they have coverage across all the dimensions that you want to see. And I think, yes, there's probably going to be some bias in there, but it's not like it's going to be in a cable bias, or it's not going to be in a satellite bias where you have, satellite is more, CD county versus AB. It's like, I think their distribution gives us a solid data set to work with. To go after your question again, it's a new world now. The jump ball situation that Nielsen changing the methodology has created is forcing everybody to up their game.
Right. So even with those new methods, right, with Nielsen's new methods or anybody else's, should people be comparing them? I know you feel like we should all be brave and step into this new world, but how about comparison? Avi, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, of course, it makes sense to test and learn. And test and learn means compare and contrast, right? You definitely need to do that. But, you do also need to weigh in not only methodologies, because that's a lot of what people think they're comparing. I'm comparing measurement company A with measurement company B, and it's about methodology. It's not exclusively about methodology. Everybody's got powerful data scientists. Everybody has, strong math, right? You also need to look at the durability of the data set. Does the data provider, the actual source of the data being analyzed, have a direct relationship with the end consumer? Because if they do not, it may not even be compliant for very much longer, thanks to privacy laws. So there may not be an opt-in. And B, there may not be a durability of sort of the relationship and the identity level resolution there. And so, there's a huge difference between an aggregator of lots of sources of set-top box data and maybe some ACR data, and they overlay some data science on top of that. There's a big difference between that and a company that actually has an opted and direct relationship with the end consumer, and therefore an understanding of, an identity resolution, an understanding of the way trends can change within the household, and of course, net new content types, net new content channels, and the ability to resolve that to other digital devices in the household because of that identity spine. And so, it's great that there are companies that are aggregating lots of quote unquote big data and doing good math on top of it. But at the end of the day, there's a certain durability and longevity that may be missing there. And so while comparing and contrasting, I think it's also important to look to the future, right? If you're going to bet on a horse, as a currency grade alternative to Nielsen, make sure that, the bet isn't for 1 or 2 years, and that there's actually a relationship with the consumer there, and that it's not just data that could evaporate overnight.
You bring up something that I think gets lost sometimes in this currency debate, is the consistency of the metrics, the ability to know that, and that's one thing that Nielsen, did pretty well until they didn't. But like if you said it, we're going to sell this rating point on a program that's going to air 9 months from now, you knew that was going to be calculated consistently across the same set of data, the same data set for that period of time until it wasn't. I think your data set does a really good job of that because, it's huge. There's people coming and going, but it's a pretty static, very representative. And I think you'll be able to make a calculation on that data set today and know that that same calculation could be compared in a time series way 6, 9, 12 months from now.
Yeah, I think, predicting viewership is, a powerful thing to do. But at the end of the day, we also need to be open to the fact that, new content appears every day that becomes very exciting and attractive to the end viewer. And we need to understand that there's sort of split attention today. I think the old linear worldview, this 20th century perspective that you have prime time and you have, this finite one screen and all eyes are on one screen, that's just not reality anymore, right? People are looking at their phones. People are leaving the house after being exposed to ads on TV. Where's the opportunity there to continue to engage with them? And that's why we're not just a measurement vendor. And we think that activation and targeting is so important for leveraging this data to be really, really impactful and drive those business outcomes.
So would you say that some ways that marketers can activate those audiences is, bringing their own data? And so to kind of dial back there for a second, right? And you've mentioned this earlier before about the cookie, and we've been hearing about the death of it for years, the deadline for which has just been pushed back another year to 2023. And so this has led to great opportunities, right, in preparation and even beforehand in BYOD, or bring your own data. So I would love to hear first from each of you, your thoughts on the death of the cookie. Are we prepared as an industry? And then do you think it will affect certain methods more than other? And then how can marketers use that data they themselves have collected to help improve the measurement of the campaign? So I had a flurry of questions in there. So you can pick and choose which ones you want. Which ones
I'll take 2 and 3. You have 1 and 4. Is that okay?
Wow, that's impressive.
No, I'm making
track and number of questions. I definitely have some thoughts here, but So first of all, the cookie was a cool thing and still is theoretically, but at the end of the day, it represents a unique browser, and it doesn't even represent a unique computer, let alone a unique consumer, let alone a household. And so we don't think about the world from the perspective of cookies. We think about the world from the perspective of households and televisions, because we're fortunate enough to have built infrastructure and technology to do so. I think that the future of identity is one of the most exciting and intriguing, topics as we figure things out as an industry moving forward. But I do think that, with regard to bring your own data, I think the most durable scenario when it comes to both the accuracy of data and the accuracy of identity is when you have a first-party data set, right? So in our case, the consumer opts in and shares data directly with us because they opted in to do so right through their TV. When a brand brings their first-party customer base to the table as a data set, when a large publisher brings their viewership a customer base to the table as a first-party data set. Now you're looking at the intersection of there's no third-party data in play, right? You've got the brand's first-party data, you've got our first-party data, and you've got the publisher's first-party data. That, by definition, has a multiplying effect of accuracy at the identity level that really can't be replicated, no matter how creative you are with data science with big third-party data sets.
Bob, I see your wheels turning there.
No, I was like, crap, I wish I would have said it like that. I was careful not to swear there. I think that's exactly right. A couple things here. One, we had a history lesson about Bulova. I mean, the cookie was invented by Netscape so that they can get a measure of their share of browser when the browser wars were starting in the 1990s. And then it became a foundational layer for $225 billion business in the US. So it's going to be hard to kind of, rip that out. And unless you're, Apple, Google, Facebook, or Amazon. So I'm not surprised that the idea of killing it has been kicked down the road a bit because it is so foundational to a significant business in the US. I think Avi is exactly right that if you're not thinking about translating third-party relationships into first-party relationships, you're missing the boat. You gotta get on that. I think his point, though, is this interesting one where two companies create quasi, second-party relationship where two first parties come together, share data, get used, and it creates a lot of value. And I think that's where marketers need to be thinking. How do we share whatever first party? Let's not rely on third-party data. It will go away at some point. Let's have a first-party relationship, and let's work with people that have other first-party relationships so that we can take advantage of that. And you do that with, some sort of double-blind matching or peer-to-peer sharing, whatever. But I think that's the solution that everybody's looking at down the road.
Okay, thanks. So it sounds like collaboration is going to be key for the future of data collection and measurement. There's an important question that I wanted to bring up, and partly in due part to fragmentation of viewership, walled gardens, and other challenges, it's difficult to collect 100% of viewership. Most measurement companies such as yours have tremendous data science companies that help solve for this. However, but there's been acknowledgement in the industry about the underrepresentation of minorities in measurement. What would you say the industry has done so far to help solve for this? And what else needs to be done to ensure measurement is representative of all demographics and ethnicities?
I really love this question. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is a hugely important topic to Samba TV, not only in our products and in our data, but in the way we operate our company culturally. First of all, we mentioned earlier the biases that are in certain types of data sets, and they are very, very real. You can check out our website, read our blog posts. We have been uncovering this stuff for several years. The biases are tremendous, particularly if you look at set-top box data, it over-indexes on older white viewers and under-indexes on traditionally marginalized and underrepresented communities in the U.S. So we are very, very focused on true representativeness, and we're very proud of the fact that when you look at our data and you look at how we're able to represent the Hispanic community, we're able to represent the African American community, the Asian American community, and so on. The truth is, you need the diversity of sources, and that's why we're so committed to working with so many different TV manufacturers to make sure that those biases are A, minimized in the raw data, and then B, sort of normalized in the way we approach things from a data science standpoint. So even before we apply any kind of weighting or any of that, we make sure that the actual seed data that we're working with is incredibly representative and accurate. And we have found that it truly is compared to any other data set out there.
Yeah, I would agree with Avi's points, many of his points. I think that the issue has been you could never get the representation that you needed in a sample of 60, 80,000 households. I think to have, and then you can't get the representation in a service that's expensive on a monthly basis. So I think that having a diverse set of technology embedded in a diverse set of TVs is critical, one. And I think having that enumeration study, something to project to, like you need to know what you want to get to, and you need to have source level data or seed level data. And historically, we haven't had that. I think we're in a much better position than we are today than we were just a couple of years ago, but there's still work to be done in this area.
Great. I think there's three big takeaways here from our conversation when it comes to data collection and measurement is number one is collaboration. Number two is representation. And number three is transparency. So for any marketers out there looking to evaluate a measurement company is to keep those three things in mind. So with that, I think that's all the time we have today, gentlemen. Thank you so much for all of your time. Thank you for being a part of the State of Measurement TV. And thank you to everyone for watching. So if you haven't yet, there's still time to register for the remaining daily sessions this week. We will continue to bring you the latest thinking on the key issues in measurement. In tomorrow's session, we will be talking identity and data privacy, a topic Avi mentioned is one of the most intriguing topics today. We'll wrap up the series on Friday with a look at opportunities in local and regional measurement. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks.
Thank you.